The first automobile design dates back to 1335 by an Italian named Guido da Vigevano. The design was organic by nature and its movement was wind-driven. The self-propelled road vehicle was also on the mind of Leonardo da Vinci, with his design of a clockwork-driven tricycle. Ironically, da Vinci never followed through with his invention because he thought it was a waste of time. In 1678, a Jesuit missionary named Ferdinand Verbist designed and built one of the first steam-powered vehicles for the Chinese emperor. The earliest inventions with steam-powered vehicles did not go very far due to overheating. In 1765, a scientist named James Watt developed the first successful pressurized steam engine. Watt's development accomplished two feats: no overheating and efficient energy source, but lacked power, speed capabilities, and had safety concerns. From the late 1700s, Europeans began working with motor-powered vehicles. Steam, combustion, and electric motors have all then developed in some form by the mid-1800s. By the 1900s, it was unclear which type of engine would power the automobile. Initially, the electric car was the most popular, but a battery did not exist that would allow the car to move very fast or over a long distance. The steam-driven automobile lasted until the late 1920s. However, the price of steam-powered engines, either to build or maintain, was more expensive than gas-powered engines. In addition, the risk of a boiler explosion also dogged the steam engine. The combustion engine continually beat out the competition, and the early American automobile pioneers like Ransom E. Olds and Henry Ford built reliable combustion engines, rejecting the ideas of steam or electrical power from the start. Ironic as it may seem, it was the cyclist and farmer movement that helped drive the automobile. In particular, these two groups in the United States grew increasingly critical of the railroad system. Railroads were often accused of having a monopoly on the movement of goods and some services. Out of this discontent came the cry for a better road system. Consequently, the group's political might and power brokers helped pave the way for the national road system. Automotive production on a commercial scale started in France around the late 1800s. Commercial production in the United States began at the beginning of the 1900s and is equal to that of Europe's. The European industry consisted of small, independent companies that would turn out a few cars by precise engineering and were handcrafted. The American automobile plants were assembly lines, and they used parts made by independent suppliers. With these parts from their suppliers, they would put together the cars at the plant. The advent of the assembly line created and shaped an industry and brought many advantages to the American industry. The assembly line process standardized mass production. As a natural consequence, this created better equipment in factories, which led to higher productivity and better wages. In the early 1900s, the United States had about 2,000 companies producing one or more cars. By 1920, the number of companies had decreased to about 100, and by 1929 to 44. One of these pioneer companies was Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford was the chief figure in this expanding industry. Ford did not invent the automobile, but he did the most to promote the car by developing more efficient and cheaper means of production. He built his first car in his garage in 1896. Ironically, the door of the garage was too small, and he had to remove the bricks to get the car out. At this time, Ford said, "Americans can have any car they want, and any color they want, as long as it's Ford and as long as it's black." In June 1903, Ford Motor Company sold its first car. Ford produced 1,700 cars during its first full year of business. Henry Ford produced the Model T to be an economical car for the average American. By 1920, Ford sold over 1 million cars. At the beginning of the century, the automobile began to demonstrate its economic and social impact on our nation. The automobile entered the transportation market as something only the rich could afford. However, it became more popular among the population because it gave people the freedom to travel when and where they wanted. Consequently, the automobile became cheaper and more accessible to the middle class. This was accomplished by Henry Ford, who did two important things. First, he priced his car to be as affordable as possible. And second, he paid his workers enough to be able to purchase the cars they were making. This helped push wages and auto sales to unprecedented levels. Much of the U.S. established motor fuel taxes that were used to build and maintain highways. These taxes paved the way for the expansion of the road system throughout the United States. The popularity of the automobile has consistently risen and fallen with the state of the economy, growing during the period after World War I and falling during the Great Depression. World War II saw a large increase in public transportation because unemployment was low and automobiles were scarce. The growth of car owners after World War II in the United States demonstrated the popularity to own an automobile. During the war, automobile engines, gasoline, and tires were very scarce. There was a lot of demand when the war ended and plenty of production capacity, because factories stopped making war equipment. During the war, workers relied on mass transportation for travel and wanted the freedom and flexibility of the automobile. The automobile completely changed the way people lived and carried out their daily lives. As never before, the automobile allowed our society not to be confined. For example, in the days of the horse and buggy, travel was limited in all practical terms to 10 to 15 miles. This meant many communities or individual farmsteads, more than 15 miles from a city or railroad line, was isolated from economic and social life. Automobiles and roads have altered the gap between rural and urban life. Farmers can ship easily and economically by truck and can drive to town when they need to. Also, schools and hospitals are now accessible by bus and car. The effect on the urban community has also been significant. The automobile has drastically changed city life by expansion of people in the suburbs. The automobile has been the main ingredient and has helped encourage business and industry to move from the inner city to sites outside the city. Consequently, the automobile has created more development and moved the footprint of our society. Also, better roads were constructed, which further increased travel throughout the nation. Before the automobile, people both lived in the city and worked in the city, or lived in the country and worked on the farm. Because of the automobile, the growth of the suburbs has allowed people to live on the outskirts of the city and be able to work in the city by commuting. New jobs due to the impact of the automobile, such as fast food, city highway construction, state patrol or police, convenience stores, gas stations, auto repair shops, auto shops, and many more, allow more employment for the world's growing population. America's entire lifestyle changed with the coming of the automobile. The automobile has altered our economy, completely changed the way we go about our daily life, and has created methods that have redefined America's industry. From the growth of various industries to the expansion of the road system and the creation of new services. We drive to work, school, sports, and other places, and seldom stop to realize how this invention and its technology affects our society. The evolution of the automobile and its subsequent economic and social impact have and will continue to define our lives in history.